Welcome to Dr. Krystal's podcast, Inspiring Sacred Stories. I am your host, Dr. Krystal, a doctor of East Asian medicine and a holistic transformational coach. Here we will shine light on wisdom keepers, paradigm shifters who inspire us to live thriving, joyful lives. Let's be inspired. Although I am a doctor of East Asian medicine, this podcast is for educational and inspirational purposes only. It does not replace professional medical advice. Please consult a qualified healthcare provider for guidance on your personal health needs. Hello, welcome to the Dr. Krystal podcast, Inspiring Sacred Stories. I am your host, Dr. Krystal. All are welcome, and we are all family here. And I am delighted to introduce to you Lynette Astaire is an LA-based intuitive wellness expert specializing in nutrition, mindset, and metabolic health with over 20 years of experience in fasting. She works with leaders, creatives, and celebrity clients to support sustainable high performance and long-term vitality. Welcome, Lynette. It's such an honor to have you.
Welcome, Dr. Krystal. I love speaking with doctors, so I'm excited to swap notes with you.
Yeah. So as you may know, this is about sacred stories, and I'm really curious, what does sacred mean to you?
Sacred means personal. Sacred means individual. It's about you and your relationship to yourself and your relationship to the rest of the world.
Yes, very individualized, right? The meaning.
Yeah.
I mean, I also read in your bio that you've been doing this since you were 11 years old. I don't know if that's going to be part of your sacred story, but I thought that was so interesting.
It's not, but I would love to hop into it. So I think that I've been doing both aspects of my career since I was that age. So yeah, I started my first food business when I was 11, and I went to Catholic school and we got lunch. And I remember one time I came downstairs and I was late. I was doing something upstairs, and that day it was Salisbury steak. And when I came downstairs, the Salisbury steak, it was like gelatinized. It was congealed. It was cold. And I remember looking at it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't eat this. This is really bad. So went home that day, said to my mom, I says, hey, can I start making my own lunch? She's like, well, it's free. I said, I don't care. I really do want to make my own lunch. And she said, okay. And from there, I started packing my own lunch, little healthy things. And this was right when Rice Krispies started to make Rice Krispie treats, the recipe on the back of the box. So I'm definitely aging myself with that, but that's part of my sacred story is the fountain of youth. And so around that time, started making them. It was such a novelty, started sharing with friends because they kept asking about them. And then eventually it just got too much. And I'm like, okay, you guys got to pay. And so from there, I started making entire sheet pans of them for the parent teacher conferences, like the the principal, Sister Rosemary, God rest her, she was it was wild. But yeah, that's how it started. And I learned so much in that few years. I did that from I think I did it all in junior high. And then obviously when I went to high school, I went to a completely different format of high school. And that was just it was just a great lesson to learn that I did have that entrepreneurial spirit and how things work and how things don't work. So yeah.
That is amazing. I love that. I'm currently working at a elementary school and with fourth graders, and we just went over like how to start your own business, how to be an entrepreneur. And I don't think when we were younger I didn't have a class like that. Did
No,
you? No.
no,
Yeah, so you
no.
just did this on your own becoming, and instead of mystery meat, let me make my own food. I remember those
Exactly.
Salisbury. Yeah, I also went
Oh,
to Catholic school. So,
oh my gosh.
well, what I would love to hear your sacred story.
Okay, so my sacred story is about being proactive instead of being reactive, but at the same time being reactive. So a lot of times when we encounter wanting to change, and I see this so much with my clients. Obviously, a lot of times my clients come to me and they are looking for transformational change. And that's because of a diagnosis. That's because of an emergency, right? And so for me, my sickest story is that I didn't wait to become the patient. And interestingly enough, it started a little bit when I had this Rice Krispie treat business. And I remember going into the grocery store and wanting to kind of explore the health food section of the grocery store. At that time, it was just like a little tiny section where it was just like rice milk, tofu, rice cakes, and that was it, right? Now its entire store is dedicated to this stuff. And I remember inquiring about the rice milk, and my mom's like, no, no, she didn't know it. She's not going for it. And I took some of the money from my work, my profits, and I invested in exploring rice stream rice milk, right? So that was the seed. And then around college time, my mother got breast cancer for the second time, and she's all right now. But what ended up happening for me was what a lot of what I see with clients, friends, other families, we have a diagnosis and we want to make a change. But for me, it was something that was more preventative. I'm like, holy crap, she's got this for the second time. And we don't know exactly why. But for me, I wanted to then start to make a change and just adjust my diet and lifestyle to make sure, as a preventative measure, that this or something else wouldn't happen to me. Now, obviously, there are so many different environmental factors that can come with cancer. Stress is obviously a big one. Where you live, environmental, the air, the water, there's so many different factors. I'm not immune to getting cancer right now, knock on wood. But at that moment, I started really leaning into fasting. And that's how my fasting practice started in college. And I started leaning into more rice milk, more soy milk, more of all of these really health forward items to get ahead of it. And so far, so good.
I love that, and you were so young when you first saw that little section in the food health in the grocery store,
Yes. I
and
was
you're like,
like 11 and
what is that?" And it was like the wonder and the curiosity in you and, um, knowing that Salisbury steak from the school cafeteria was like mystery meat and, that's what we used to call it, mystery meat,
yes,
and that
literally
you
mystery meat. Because it is.
Yeah. Yeah, and you had this intuition like, "This isn't real food. This might make me sick," like, so and I love that, I can relate to my mom had brain cancer, and that's when I chose to go to acupuncture school,
Mm,
and like you, I discovered health food stores not as young as you, but I remember my first one and being like, "Whoa. What is this? This is amazing," and being really excited about it. And, it cost more, but it was like, wow, this is cool. And it just sent me down this like path, this journey of self-discovery. But I'm glad that your mom is okay now.
yeah, absolutely,
And so,
absolutely.
yeah, and your passion is preventative medicine.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the thing about it is that it's a tough road because biologically we are still wired from millennia. I know we have all this technology, we have this AI, we have this electricity, we have this DoorDash, we have all these things, but we are still wired to hunt and forage and get what we get for the day and then start it all over the next day. And so we are not wired to take preventative measures. We are wired for reaction. And that's really hard for people to really lean into because that's just it's not our natural inclination. It's just not. And so that's why a lot of times people wait for the last minute, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4. That's what ends up happening because we're wired to just put it off, put it off. Okay, I'm fine. I'm fine. Okay, well, I'll figure it out tomorrow. Right? When you think about weight gain, it compounds and it's very cumulative. And on the other end of the spectrum, if someone could lose $100,000 in a second, they could lose that in Vegas. But to gain weight, it's happening over time. You don't gain 100 pounds overnight. This is compound lack of effort, right? And it goes back to us being more reactive. And in this case, someone wakes up and they're finally tired, or again, they get a diagnosis or something has now become so out of control that they have to start to make a change. So, yeah.
Yeah, so that's what you meant by being responsive, not reactive, but yet reactive. Can
Yes,
you tell me
yes,
that?
because
What Yeah, go ahead.
it wasn't, I say that because I was still reacting. I was reacting to my mother's diagnosis and not reacting to my individual diagnosis. So I don't want to make it seem like I'm some just guru where, oh my gosh, I just made this decision to do it. No, I was reacting to. It just wasn't me. And I was like, okay, cool. I want to get ahead of this for me in case that this is something that can happen to me. And at the time, there wasn't enough studies about the BRCA gene. And now there's enough studies with the BRCA gene that, like, no, I don't, she doesn't have it and we don't have it. But again, this is a lifestyle issue as well. There's so many different factors with this. So yes, I was reactive, but I was responsive. It was a hybridized approach to where I am now.
So that just set you on your journey, your passion, your purpose to support people.
It did. But the interesting thing is that at the time I was in school, like I said, she couldn't come to my college graduation. It was in New York, Lincoln Center, the whole thing, amazing. And that was for actually fine art school. So I was in a completely different field. And what ended up happening is that I changed my lifestyle at that time. And it's funny because my friends in college started to call me nuts and berries because I was leaning so much into this. And now I consult with a lot of them. They call me when they need help with things. But it was at that time, I didn't actually start to make this a career until around maybe 2014. So yeah, not that long ago. Not maybe about 12 years ago. But before then I was working in the arts and entertainment, working on different projects in that realm. And then that for me became something that I really wasn't passionate about. And I just looked and I said, okay, I was making good money at the time. I was starting to just really build up. I was signed to a big photo agency. So I'd shot covers and just different things for Simon and Schuster, Penguin, the whole 9 yards. So it wasn't terrible. And it was a question, it was just like, okay, I can continue on with this. But I didn't see myself as some 80, 90-year-old photographer. And now looking at like AI, hell no. No way. No way. I was just in touch with I was just in New York in touch with some college friends, and a couple of them are still, holding on, but I didn't see myself in that way. So I really started to think about what I could do that I wouldn't have to change ever again. Because I don't believe in retirement if you're really locked into what, not only what you're good at, but what's really helpful for people. And then I also listened to something that my grandmother said to me while I was in school. She says, not sure exactly what you're going to do or like how things are going to progress for you in the future, but always remember this: people die, people get sick, and people have to eat. And so combined with all of that is how I leaned into the lifestyle that I'd already been doing for over 10 years and it was working, along with what she said and along with just how I saw my industry changing. And also was a bit of a selfish pursuit where it's just like, look, if business is not necessarily good one day or another day, I'm still taking care of myself and the people. I still have to do this. What I'm doing, I still have to do this if I care about myself. So it doesn't really matter. I mean, obviously it does, but So I started to lean into food, nutrition, cooking, chefing, and then obviously with the wellness slant and helping people with that. And so I ended up really knocking out two of the three things that my grandmother said. People get sick, food is medicine, and people have to eat. So that doesn't have to be completely related because people have to eat, but most food and most culinary is based on recreation and not rehabilitation, you know? So I combined both of them. And honestly, the first career path I thought of when I was a kid was actually becoming a doctor. That's why I said I really like speaking to doctors because I wanted to be one at first. And so I feel like I took a very circuitous path into that. But in a way, because of the work I do, no, I am absolutely not a board certified, all of the things. But food is medicine, and the work that I do really helps people in that regard.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, a lot of MD doctors don't even touch nutrition, or in
Absolutely. Absolutely.
preventative. I think the the new ones coming out of school now are learning more about preventative medicine and nutrition, but old school, no, they didn't.
No,
They
they're
didn't even
not. They're
look
not.
at it in
It was a
school.
blow off class.
Yeah, they didn't even learn it. So your bio also talks about fasting. Do you still fast? Is that still I'm so curious about that.
Yes, absolutely. So fasting was actually the first lever when I started to lean into this. And so my boyfriend at the time, he's like, "Hey, his mother was definitely kind of like hippie culture, and he came across this book that I guess had been exposed to him by her called The Master Cleanse." And so
Oh,
we're
yeah.
in Whole Foods in New York in Union Square. And he's like, "We got to get this book." And the Master Cleanse book is like $10. Right. So
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, what is this? And I'm like, all right. So I start looking at it. And around the same time, actually a few years before, I was in my dorm and I wasn't even looking at it. It was like in the background. It was an episode of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire with Regis Philbin. And you remember that group from back in the day, TLC?
Yes, I love
Any chance?
them.
Okay, so TLC. So Left Eye, she
Mhm.
was on there, and Regis is interviewing her before she's about to start the competition, and she's like, "Oh, yeah, I haven't eaten for I think it was like 30 or 60 days, something completely just beyond." And I grew up idolizing these girls, so I'm like, "Whoa, what is she talking about?" And she had gotten down to Honduras and was working with Dr. Sabi, who, for those that don't know, he is no longer with us, but he was a huge, huge alternative medicine just proponent. And he was actually sued and won about finding a cure for cancer. So it's very deep. If you ever want to really dig into it, his protocols and stuff are quite interesting. I follow some of it, not all of it. I like to kind of, dit down around with it, but he had influenced her with fasting. And I'm like, okay. And I just kind of let that sit. That was the seed. So then years later, when my boyfriend at the time then brought up the master cleanse, it was easy for me to say okay and lean into it because it already resonated. And so I want to use that quick point for people when it comes to making transformational change for whatever it is you're doing in life, regardless of if it's wellness or what. A lot of times when you start to make that split second decision, it actually is a culmination of a lot of different exposures to it. Someone said an offhand comment, you read something, you looked at something, and then finally that resonation happens and it clicks. Most people just don't make, unless it is literally life or death, you're not making these big decisions just on their own. They've actually been running in the background of your subconscious for you to now make that decision. So obviously my mother's diagnosis was like, okay, shoot, we're doing this now for real. This is not even a joke. Right. And so he started working with the master cleanse. And at the time I was working in restaurants. And so it was really like a matter of, it was mind over matter. Right. So I'm like dealing with the food. And it's like, I haven't eaten for 9 days. I've been drinking this like lemonade, cayenne pepper concoction, but I'm okay. And because our society is so obsessed with weight, it's really tricky for someone like me because it is absolutely not for weight loss. And so, well, why are you doing this? You don't need to lose weight. You don't need to lose weight. People are people are always going to look for a reason to attack other, and especially if it's something for the betterment of yourself that they haven't been able to gather the gumption to be able to do for themselves. So they're creating blocks, but it's really blocks for themselves, but it's in the vehicle of attacking you in a way. So why are you doing this? You don't have to lose weight. I said, okay, what about preventing weight? What about the freshman 15? What about the love weight? What about all these other things that could actually happen? Right. And so I soldiered on. And then over time, my fasting practice started to evolve. I got mentors. I started working with Michael, who is one of the former directors of the Hippocrates Institute down in West Palm Beach, Florida. He had me come in and work with some of his clients on their retreats out in Michigan. This was around maybe 2013, I think. And then I lived in Mexico for about 6 years. And so there, obviously, I was along the beach. It was really hot. Your propensity to eat is obviously like really low. So then I started working with the holistic center there, helping them do fasting with coconut water, structured green juice. And so it really evolved over time. And so now it has landed for me in recent years. It's been water, because I started running, and I started running like marathon training. And so what ended up happening is that this seasonal sacred practice I didn't have the bandwidth to do it. 10 days, you're easing on, it's longer than 10 days. This is like a 15-day practice, right? And with a 15-day practice, you need the fuel to run. You need the fuel to run, right? And so that's when I switched to water fasting. And at the same time, I was learning a little bit more about autophagy. And I realized that through the structured green juice fasting, that was one of the things that was really the ultimate goal, especially for me, because it didn't have anything to do with weight loss. It was about autophagy, which is basically dead cells eating itself. This is the preventative measure. This is the fountain of youth factor. This is the big reason. Even if you're trying to lose weight, this is the big reason on why you fast. This is it. And the entire time, I've always leaned into intermittent fasting just kind of by default. But for those that are wanting to ease into it, intermittent fasting is the best step. So
Do
yeah,
you
so we're here now. Yeah.
do you intermittent fast every day, or do you just have periods where you fast like every so often I do this water fast, or do you kind of every day wait to eat, and have like the eating window?
No, I do it all the time. At least I do my best to. I try my best to. I'm not going to sit here and say that I am completely soldiering every day with intermittent fasting. I'm traveling right now. Circadian rhythm is completely off, but like I say to myself and like I say to my clients, like 80-20 as best as possible. And then I do I do seasonal water fasts. I try to do those for about 72 hours or so. Like I said, my metabolism is really high, and I've been doing this for so long that I know exactly when to stop. So the longest I've ever fasted was 21 days. I know when to stop. I probably should have stopped at day 18. And this is what helps me with my clients. I actually have a fasting program called Reset with Lynette that is just the built up 20 years of all of this experience, so that people understand what the healing crisis is, the breakthroughs that you're going to get, the things to look out for, the things not to look out for, the equipment you should have, the ingredients you should have, and just a lot of different things, and particularly women's and fasting and hormones. So with that being said, I like to fast once a month for 24 hours. Some people fast once a week for 24 hours. Again, once you get into the reading and understanding of it, you'll figure out what works for you. And what works for you is not going to be particularly what works for you for the rest of your life. Everything is going to change. So for women, there's a particular time that fasting is obviously ideal. Be away from your cycle, away from your main, menstrual bleeding, because obviously your body is undergoing so much other stuff at that time. Like, why would you put more pressure on it? Right. So for me, after I'm done with my menstrual cycle, in those like 4 days, somewhere around in there, is when I'll do my 24-hour fast right after that. And so that's a practice that I do every month. So I'll be doing that probably this weekend. We'll see. looks like it's
You know,
looks like it's happening now.
you were being
I feel the
telepathic.
cramps coming.
You answered my next question. It was going to be, when's the ideal time for a woman with hormones, to fast? And it was like you were tuning in. I didn't even have
Yep.
to ask. So,
Yep.
well, I think that's so fascinating, and what a gift that you have to offer people. Especially now. It's so clear that we're being bombarded with toxins. So I feel like it's even more important now to cleanse, fast, so that you can be your body's strong enough to withstand the microplastics, the all of it, the radiation, the Wi-Fi. Like we're in this evolutionary period, and it's fascinating, it's exciting. I feel hopeful. It's like, let's be proactive. Let's eat as clean as we can, and then, the fasting. So how can someone find you?
You can find me at LynetteAstaire.com. That's the first place. That's the hub for everything. So that's the hub for one-on-one coaching. I've got 30-day program, 3-month program, and 6-month program. And it is quite transformative, and it covers everything. I like to say food, fasting, and pharma. Even though I'm not a doctor and even though I'm not really leaning into pharmaceuticals, I'm a really big proponent on peptides, and obviously those are best prescribed. So that is, under the umbrella of pharma. But our first two levers are food, fitness, fitness, fasting, and then pharma. So we lean into that, and we create a program and a protocol that is made just for you. I understand that we see what other people are doing and, celebrities or, magazines, but it's really important that you have a protocol that is made specifically for you that you can then iterate off of. Right. And so that's obviously based on your blood work during the time. That's based on your stress level. If you're getting pregnant or trying to get pregnant, there's so many different factors. But once you get a baseline, you can figure out how to tweak the rules, bend the rules, eliminate things, completely replace things. It's really big. And then from there, you can also find resetwithlynette.com, which is the fasting course. And that covers structured green juice fasting, that covers intermittent fasting, that covers water fasting. And that also has a special section for women and their cycles and just some troubleshooting for there. And then it also includes some great meal plans and recipes for people easing in and easing out. That is really important. That's really important, particularly how you end it, right? Because there's some opportunities for you to do some stem cell work, but that's depending
Mm,
upon how you end the fast, right? How you start the fast and how you ease in. Ideally, if you don't want to put yourself through a bunch of torture, you'll kind of start to slowly ease into lighter foods and lighter things, but how you end it is really important and what you come back to. I mean, you can't just get off of it and go back to a sandwich with bread. Believe me. There's some, again, over 20 years, there have been some mistakes that I made. Believe me, you guys can read about those. I have suffered for you.
yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And yes, and thank you for the listeners. And as you know, between now and next time, remember to find the sacred and inspiration in everyday life.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Thank you for joining me on Dr. Krystal's podcast, Inspiring Sacred Stories. If today's episode lifted you up, I'd love if you shared it with a friend, subscribe, leave a comment. It helps more people discover these stories of light and transformation. And if you'd like to work with me more closely, head over to www.drkrystalkinnunen.com. And as a thank you for listening to the show, you'll receive $20 off your first session. Details are also in the show notes. Remember, in this time of rapid change and transformation, you are not alone. You are part of a greater shift, and your inspired life matters. Until next time, let's be inspired.